Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be here, and I'm supposed to answer the question, who decides what we eat? And I do this from the standpoint of somebody who thinks about food systems. And by food systems, I mean everything from science to agriculture to nutrition and to public health, and then also to advocacy. And I'm going to emphasize the advocacy part because I think it's really important. One of the things that seems to me important in thinking about food choice is that the largest problems, public health problems in the world and food system problems are related to food. And these are food insecurity, obesity, and the environmental damage that is caused. The undernutrition affects roughly 1 billion people in the world. Obesity is said to affect maybe 2 billion people in the world, and environmental damage affects absolutely everybody. And of course, much of that environmental damage comes from our diets that are heavily dependent on meat. Now, what we're supposed to eat is really pretty well defined. I'm an American, and these are the American Dietary Guidelines from 2015 to 2020, and they say that what you're supposed to be eating is fruits, vegetables, meat, poultry, and other kinds of foods, relatively unprocessed, and what you're not supposed to be eating is what we pejoratively call junk foods, highly processed foods that have a lot of the nutritional value removed, that are very high in calories, salt, and sugar. Now, if you the problem with that is that if you're going to be dealing with the question of obesity, you want to eat better and eat the kinds of foods that are recommended. You want to eat less in general, and you want to move more. But the problem is that all of those are not particularly good for the food industry. And we have a food industry that is very large, Nestle, that is very large and makes most of its profits from the foods, the exact same foods that are least recommended by public health nutrition people. So this brings us to a lot of ironies in the food system and difficulties with thinking about these things. And the particular contradiction that I like talking about is in the U.S. Department of Agriculture's nutrition policy. It says, make half of your plate fruits and vegetables. Sounds good to me. But if you look at the other side of U.S. Department of Agriculture policy for agriculture, it does exactly the opposite. And from this particular formulation, which was agricultural subsidies from 2008 to 2012, I think, the amount of federal subsidies that went to fruits and vegetables amounted to less than 0.5%. And all the rest of it went to corn, soybeans, and other kinds of foods that are mostly fed to animals, thereby promoting a diet that's higher in meat. So the food industry has a big problem. We produce in the United States probably twice as much food as is actually needed by the population. And this has led the food industry to emphasize marketing in a way that it never has before, and to develop methods to get people to eat more food, one of which is to develop larger portion sizes. And if you look at what's happened to portion sizes in the U.S. diet over the last 30 to 50 years, they have gotten much, much bigger. And as a nutrition educator, if I had one thing that I could teach the world, it would be that larger portions have more calories. It's not intuitively obvious. Trust me on this one. So the food industry has a terrible problem in that it's very, very competitive, and it has to do everything it can to sell foods, to get people to eat more of a company's products or to eat more in general. And one way to do that is to advertise. the soft drink industry happens to be particularly transparent about what it's doing, and this particular formulation talks about the amount of money that Coca-Cola is spending to build new bottling plants and promote Coca-Cola all over the world. And most of the figures that you see here are in billions. And the one that strikes me as particularly poignant is the $17 billion that Coca-Cola has said that it will spend in Africa between 2010 and 2020 in order to promote sales of its products there. These kinds of things lead to extremely contradictory messages. This is a real sign. It's real. And so in an environment like this, individual food choice is very, very difficult. For individuals faced with a food environment that's as complicated as this, it's really hard to make healthy food choices. And so we need to look at the environment, or as this cartoon says, you need to eat out of another parking lot. And so this brings me to the whole question of advocacy, which is something that I'm very interested in. And advocacy is the new threat to corporate food, as this Forbes magazine, or this Forbes article says, that it's food activists who are now the brand managers for major food companies. How I wish this were true. It lists as the food influencers, public health nutritionists, celebrity nutritionists, and food bloggers. Are they talking about me? I wish I had that kind of power. I really did. But it is clear that, at least in some places, the food movement is having a big effect. In the United States, in the middle of our rather peculiar recent election, there was one extremely bright ray, and that was that every single local soda tax initiative that was proposed passed. And the soda taxes are being framed by the food movement people as a social justice issue, one that is going to make poor people healthier and is going to be better for people and for the planet. So when it comes to food choice, it's very important for individuals to vote with their fork. But it's also extremely important that we have food system policies that will make the healthy choice the easy choice. And these are the kinds of things that I discuss in my books. And I'm very, very happy to have the chance to share this with you today. Thank you.